Hello again, everybody. It's Scott Casper, Takedown Media. Tony Hager along the way as well, our continuing coverage of the sport today. This interview brought to you by Nike Wrestling. Look for Nike Wrestling and wrestling products at a retailer near you. We head to Iowa City, Iowa, Carver Hawkeye Arena, the home of the Hawkeyes of the University of Iowa. Associate head coach Terry Brands joins us. Terry, good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good morning to you.
Hey, it's a big day, of course, as you guys are preparing for so much. The Big Tens are literally this coming weekend. After that, we head to the NCAA Championships in St. Louis. We also have some very high-level athletes that are preparing for competition in their own right. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, but before we get there, the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and Terry Brands together have made a move as far as apparel goes, shoes, etc. What can you tell us about the rumors out there we're hearing about this big announcement, the so-called big announcement? What can you tell us?
Well, I think that Nike is going to be in my closet now.
So you've signed with Nike
I
Wrestling.
I have, and it's an opportunity that I'm fired up about, and they were real good coming to me, and you know threw some things my way that really are beneficial to my future in the sport of wrestling, and like I said, I couldn't be more fired up about it.
Well, that's okay. So that there is the big announcement, Tony Hager. It's Nike, and the words from Terry Brands himself that Terry Brands will be wearing Nike. Will the Hawkeye Wrestling Club be wearing Nike as well then?
Well, we have some crossover there. There are the guys that are on contract with some other shoe companies and stuff. So, they're really open-minded about that end of it. But we're looking to use the Nike product in our jackets and pants and get shoes on guys that aren't with other companies and that kind of thing. And like I said, it's just Nike's in the game to stay, I think, this time. And I really like what Shane and Eddie are doing. And I really like, I haven't met Eddie yet, but I've met Shane, and I really like what he's about and some of the things that they're working with and some of the individuals that they're starting to land. And frankly, from my background, Nike's always intrigued me with Phil Knight and some of the stories that he talks about with, flying out of his chair when people that he was sponsoring would say stuff about image is everything, and that would freak him out because performance is everything to Nike, and that's always intrigued me since I was a junior high kid reading articles about the great athletes that come through different sports, and then obviously the Prefontaine and the Bowerman and the Phil Knight stories and all of that. I'm very aware of that, and that's very motivating to me as a young athlete as I was coming through and trying to make my way in the sports world.
You mentioned Steve Prefontaine. It is one of the more motivating stories in the world of sport, I think, and I think it interesting that you bring it up. I would imagine that many athletes out there look at the Terry Brands story and use the Terry Brands story as something that can be very motivating. Let's go to Tony Hager. Start things off, Tony.
Well, I mean, keeping with Nike, I think what's very important is there's lots of people out there with the whole Oregon thing and why that program is no more. And what I am really excited about and hearing what Nike is doing with wrestling and bringing out new shoes and more product and signing with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club is that next step for Nike. And I'm excited to see what they're creating there. With the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and what you guys have been able to do, fundraising, now Nike, what's the next step for Hawkeye Wrestling Club?
Well, I think the steps are, as they come, the steps are competition. What's next is this Agon event in Iowa here, and with Ramos, Metcalf, McDonough, and Keddy getting these matches lined up, and then going to the World Cup in California after that with Metcalf, Ramos, and Keddy there. Or I'm sorry, McDonough will be an alternate 61 kilo there. So, and then, the billing card for the Agon event's going to be, they say it's Metcalf Pico, but I really like the Ramos Cejudo card, and I would consider that the top bill. So it's the competition steps in the Hawkeye Wrestling Club.
That's
Nike coming along with us is big because I think, for them to come to me after being with ASICS for 23 years, and and then me, actually even entertaining that, that says a lot about a commitment, and that says a lot about what Nike wants to do. It says a lot about, the things in the sport of wrestling. I mean, why is Nike involved this heavily? They know that they can capture a big part of this market, and they know what wrestling and the pureness of the sport has to offer.
Let's talk a bit about one of the matchups you mentioned that you think that perhaps that is the marquee matchup, not the Metcalf Pico, but the Ramos Cejudo matchup.
That's not to diminish the Pico Metcalf matchup
No,
either.
no, but I want to bring this up because this is a match that I've actually wanted to see. You've coached Henry Cejudo onto an Olympic gold medal. Tony Ramos, the performance that Tony's had at the University of Iowa, now onto the world stage, has been outstanding. It's like a rocket, man. If you light it, he just goes. Can you compare and contrast these two guys, knowing as much as you do about both of them?
Well, for sure. I mean, and I haven't been around Henry since '08, so, it's been, 6, 7 years now going on. So, I don't know where he's at in his training. I know that, I did an article. I had a fighter magazine call me up, and they wanted to talk about Henry's training and what was going on with him. And all I said was, hey, Henry, if you want to retire, retire. If you want to fight, fight, And they've taken that as new motivation, and that I was ripping on Henry. And that's not the case at all. I have the utmost respect for him as an Olympic champion and somebody who I coach, and I saw him train. And I'm going to tell you right now, there aren't very many doggone guys I've been around that trained like he did, and prepared the way that he did, emotionally, mentally, physically. So I'll say that right there. And Ramos is right alongside that. I haven't been around very many people like either one of these guys who get ready to go physically, emotionally, mentally, the way that these two guys do, and how much it means to them when they really when they really get after something and it really means something to them. They leave no stone unturned.
I just finished reading the new Gable book, and it talks about motivating. It talks about learning from losses. It talks about coaches and athletes coming to loggerheads at times. There was a point where you and Henry came to loggerheads, and you actually told him to leave your room, and he came back on your terms, and he got better, I think, because of that. Do you look back on that experience the same way I do?
For sure. And, really what the article was about is when the guy called me, I said, hey, I have nothing bad to say about Henry. You want to know what I think, I'll tell you what I think, and then you can, paint the picture, and hopefully you're fair to me. That's really what I said to the author of that article. And really what that article was, it was really the same thing that happened, back in it would have been November of '06. Or '07 maybe. I don't remember the year or the chronology of it, but it was one of those situations where, hey, you want to go to Hawaii unannounced and, go do things that aren't, in line with what we're trying to have you do here with your training, then you can, get out of the program. And he kind of chuckled at me, and I kind of looked at him and I said, you're out of the room till, Halloween. And he was like, that kind of thing. And then, I said, you're going to have to leave the room. I'll see you on Halloween. And he didn't think I was serious for probably, a 6 or 7 minute conversation through that. And he came back on Halloween, and he was, fully committed. And the rest is the Olympic gold medal and the things that he took care of. It wasn't me. It was him. It was him realizing what he needed to do and becoming committed to his own aspirations and then fulfilling them through the things that he was doing.
So Tony Ramos, is Tony Ramos on track in your mind? You see how this guy trains. He's a young father to be. Seems to be as focused as ever. His heart seems to be in the right place. Talk to us a little bit about Tony Ramos.
I love Ramos. He's one of my all-time favorites, and here's the thing with Ramos. He is a very committed person to things that matter. And what I mean by that is it's the training, it's the competition, it's the approach to his wife and the way that he's carrying through, with his new kid coming. coming into the world, and things of that nature. Again, you know, when you see him and you see the stare down and all the things that just the outside people see, you can draw, you know, a villain out of that, or you can love him, hate him type of guy. But the bottom line is that, you know, when you get to know a guy like Tony, you get to really appreciate, you know, competitors that are about, you know, advancing humanity forward. And that's what he is. Everything that he does is, you know, in line with what is right and the right way to do it. And it's not just about self-promotions, but about promotions and promoting the things that he believes in, whether it's a lifestyle or whether it's a product. And that's the thing that I really love about him, a genuine, you know, person who carries himself as such.
This interview brought to you in part by Nike Wrestling. You've heard it from Terry Brands himself, the associate head coach of the University of Iowa and the one of the great leaders for the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, that the club and Terry Brands have made the move to Nike Wrestling. It's a brand new deal, as described by Terry Brands for the club, and it does include guys like Tony Ramos and Brent Metcalf. Let's go to Tony Hager. Tony?
And as we talk about Brent Metcalf, we talked with Welch earlier last week about the Pico and Metcalf match. And he mentioned, and we all know, that both of these guys have extremely large gas tanks. And he's picking Pico over Metcalf on technique only. I want to get your perspective on both of these two styles. Will they clash together, or will technique be the one that prevails?
So what you're saying is that he's saying that Pico's a better technician, or that he picks Pico over Metcalf?
I think he said both.
He said both.
Okay. You know, I could see him saying that. You know, California to California.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know about the contrast. I've seen Pico wrestle. I've seen his hands. I've seen how heavy he is. I've seen him, you know, work a guy's head. He's trained in a, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, a different system. You know, Coach Kalika has made no bones about it that, you know, his system is better than, you know, the American system, or, you know, other competitors in this country's system of training. And he should believe that. You know, if he didn't believe that, why is he training an elite level athlete? So I say good job, and I say great for you for believing. But we have our guy, and we believe in our guy, and we believe in what we're doing with him, and we mostly believe in what he's doing when he's in our room. And again, it's like the Cejudo thing. It's not about, you know, who's mentoring Metcalf or mentoring Pico. It's about those guys believing in the environment that they're in and believing in themselves and being able to get what they want out of themselves to get to where they want to be with their accomplishments and the things that they aspire to become.
Metcalf has come such a long ways. Okay, he's on through NCAAs, and he got on the international circuit, and he took his lumps. He continues to take some lumps, but he continues to never be satisfied, and that's what I think Americans and Hawkeye fans love about him is he is not happy with second place ever. You know, he just got second place in gosh, where was that at?
Paris? I'm sorry.
Which is
Krasnoyarsk, right.
Yeah, which is a huge tournament, and second place is a huge accomplishment. But he was not happy with that, and he'll be back again to go for that gold. And switching gears off of Metcalf and Ramos, the other members of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, and you said that these four, Keddy, Ramos, Metcalf, and McDonough, are wrestling at Agon. Touch base on what the status is of Micah.
Micah Burak has moved back to Colorado, and he's training at the Olympic Training Center now. He was here for a year, and you know we really liked having him around. It just didn't work out for him more than anything. And he's at home, and you know he was third at the Schultz. Lost a 6-6 bout to the eventual champion, Byers. And you know he seems to be on track with where he wants to go and what he wants to do. And you know what the thing there is, that's kind of what I was talking about also. You know, this wasn't the best place for him. You know, I don't know if he was homesick or whatever the situation was, but he had the integrity to come to us and ask about some money things and seeing if he could still go back to Colorado and train there and this and that. And yeah, we're all good with that. And so, we want what's best for the guy, and we want what's best for Metcalf, Ketty, Ramos, McDonough, and also Birak, whether he's training here in Russia or, in Colorado Springs. It really doesn't matter to us.
Hasn't that been pretty much the hallmark of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club since its formation? I mean, Gabe, I remember back in the early 80s when I'd come into the room, you couldn't turn around without, bumping into an All-American, an NCAA champ, a four-time high schooler, silver, bronze, Olympic gold, world champs. It didn't matter. I mean, the room is heavy. It seems to me like you guys are on track, as Luke Eustace likes to say, on track toward developing champions and that whole mental stability of being a champion, not wanting to be number one, but actually being number one.
For sure. And, again, that goes back to the philosophy that, maybe the leadership of the program was raised with, and then ultimately that wrestled under and was mentored by, and then now you want to carry that banner forward and make it better than it was. So we like what we're doing with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, and we know that these guys are grown men and that they have set ideas about how to do things, and we're going to come alongside them, whether it's Metcalf or whether it's Ramos, and we're going to help them, accomplish and aspire to the things that they want to accomplish and aspire to.
And with the success of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club that you guys have had here recently, and recruiting wise, when you go out on the trail to recruit guys, how big of a tool has this been? Because from what I know, when you go to Iowa, you have aspirations to wrestle on the international circuit, and when you can show your portfolio of what you guys have done with Ramos, Metcalf, and McDonough, how great of a tool has that been when you sit in front of a young athlete?
Well, it's not really about the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. It's more about, the development that you get when you come here. When we go to recruit a kid, the guys that we recruit are people that wrestle in the off season, quote unquote, which really isn't even the off season. The off season's a collegiate season if you want to get down to the world stage of it. And so you have guys that are wrestling year round, and we know what they're after, and they know what they're after. And so, they can draw their own conclusions based on the things that we're doing and, whether what we're doing is right for them or not. As far as the Hawkeye Wrestling Club being talked about, you got to realize that when we go on the road, I don't have to talk about the Hawkeye Wrestling Club because Brent Metcalf is an Iowa product. Matt McDonough is an Iowa product. Phil Ketty is an Iowa product. Tony Ramos is an Iowa product. This is different than any place in the country. These guys are homegrown. They're people that decided to stay. They could have made a ton more money going out into the real world, doing something different, or going out into the wrestling world somewhere else. And they didn't because they know that this is the best place for them to be at. It doesn't mean it's the best place, but it's the best place for them. And when we have a kid sign on that dotted line, they know. They know. And we've had a lot of guys do that, not based on money, not based on things that really won't matter when you're dead and gone, but, based on principles and things that are righteous on the here and now.
So faith, it's, I think a lot of it has to do with faith, trust, dedication, loyalty, all these things that once they put themselves in your hands and those in the program, I mean, there becomes an element of caring. We care about you getting better, and I get that. It's perhaps one of the greatest things about wrestling that attracts me to the sport is that this sport is one that has a ton of folks in it that just absolutely care about the athletes first and foremost. Results will come with hard work, but man, I tell you what, that's a great thing about wrestling. We're talking with Terry Brands. He's the associate head coach, University of Iowa. The big news today, of course, that Terry Brands and the Hawkeye Wrestling Club that was established back in 1973 is now a Nike program, and I think that's a very big distinction to make today, a very big announcement. Eddie Brown at Nike has told us about this, and then Shane Goodell, of course, and Grant Turner as well as the national sales managers. So big news out of the University of Iowa today, and Terry Brands has been our guest. Terry, we want to let you have the final say on the way out. Didn't mean to have the interview run so long, but I
fine.
suppose with the enormity of the announcement, we'll give you all the time that you want, but what would you like to say in closing?
I said it. I'm really fired up to be with Nike and what they're about, and the founding principles of that company is, really in line with the way that I was raised. You know what? You get what you earn. It's not about deserve. It's not about image. It's about performance. It's about winning the right way and getting your hand raised the right way. And I couldn't be more fired up, and much appreciations to Nike and Eddie and Shane for believing in me and actually stepping out after me being with ASICS for 23 years and actually taking a shot at me. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to the future.
Terry, we appreciate the time today. Thank you. Best to your brother and the guys as they get ready for the Big Tens. It's coming up in Columbus, Ohio. Are you guys fired up about it?
We're fired up, and we'll be ready to go on Saturday morning when that round starts. And here we come.
That's what I'm talking about. Big
Yep.
Tens, and then, of course, Agon. After that, April 3rd, Cedar Rapids. Tickets on sale now. It's going to be a battle for sure at the U.S. Cellular Center. We'll see you folks in St. Louis as well. For all of us at Takedown Media, for Tony Hager, and for our very special guest today, Terry Brands, this has been a very special one-on-one. You've been watching Takedown.